my stars and garters, we have begun. What's up to our sidekicks and henchfolk out there in the mother-loving geek nation? You're currently tuning into the CultPop podcast, episode 801. We're just a group of humans who talk about comics and movies and TV in a once-monthly roundup of current comics on the stands right now. I'm your host, Johnny Destructo of Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, which is located 4327 Main Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's a super rad shop that caters to the nerdy and the nerd adjacent. Come give us y'all money and I'll give you some cool shit. Joining me tonight are Brian Lieb.
Hey, you guys are human? Dude, that's so crazy. I was raised as a human as well.
Oh, wait.
This is wild.
Raised as?
Yeah.
So
do
what's
you want
up?
Do you want to tell us any? Do you want to tell us anything?
I would love to.
We don't
Anyway.
have time, though. Noel Bartocci is also here.
Hi,
There he is.
human, raised as well as
Interesting.
identifies as
Interesting. Word.
spatially as species.
Thank you to everyone joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, and
That's
Twitch. If you like what
That's
we're
cool.
doing, you should like and comment, subscribe, and share, and get in the chat and freaking say stuff so that we can say hi back. You can email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. And just like this fella did,
Oh,
Christopher St. Saucy Goodnight wrote us in. He asks some questions.
what do we
Hopefully we will have some answers. Question number 1. And we're going to go through and answer as we go.
Good.
What's the best prank you ever thought of? Were you successful in pulling it off? No.
No.
Nope.
I
pranks.
have pulled so few pranks in my waking life that I can't even think of any that I was proud of, or whether I was proud of the inception of and or the execution. I'm so prankless, it's not worth mentioning.
I think that I probably did some April Fool's jokes, at least 25 to 30 years ago. Yeah. I don't remember any in
At the
particular.
time.
Right.
JD.
When I worked at Friendly's, which is an ice cream restaurant chain, I worked at what was called what was it called? The bar? It's not the bar, the ice cream bar. So I was the one who was making the sundaes.
Okay.
And so my brother and his family came in, and I thought instead of, he ordered a big sundae with a lot of scoops of ice cream in it, and instead of scoops of ice cream, I would replace all the scoops of ice cream with balled up pieces of paper and then cover it with all the different toppings.
Okay.
He was not tickled.
He didn't think it was funny?
No.
No.
I thought it was hilarious.
Did you not get him a regular Sunday after that?
Oh, of course. Afterwards, I made him a regular sundae.
Yeah. Oh, he didn't get into it. All right. And that was your
Yeah.
last or just
That's
greatest
real.
prank?
That was a prank. I'm not a big prankster.
Not a big prankster.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I think there's a real fine line, not to sound like a little baby about it, but I think there's a real fine line to like pranks and just straight up bullying.
Yeah.
And I've never felt comfortable with pranks.
Mhm.
Personally.
I, for instance, when somebody says, look over there, and then they're like, made you look, it's like, yeah, of course I look.
Because
You
because
said,
we have a
"Look over
social
there."
we currently have a social contract where if you ask me to do something, I will take it in good faith
Right.
and do something.
I thought
So-
there was a reason.
What's funny? What's
Right.
funny? Yeah.
You know what? I have done that so many times. The what's that over there? Generally, if I'm with someone and I'm friendly with them enough to do this, I will be talking to them and then I'll be looking at them straight at them, and then I'll just sort of go, and that'll be enough to get them to do this. At which point I'll steal their French fries,
Oh.
and they'll look back
Oh,
and
so
I'll
they have
just
to have
have a
French
mouthful of
fries
French
for this
fries.
So if you'd ever pull that with me, I would just assume you got lost in a thought.
Yeah,
Like I would not
Yeah.
not try and like, what are you looking at? JD? Something else of attention?
Yeah,
It would
he's
be
done
more.
that
It would be
again.
more a clue that like you just lost the thread of what I am probably spending way too much time explaining. That's all.
That's funny. And then I would punch you and eat your French fries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fries are still
Or
part of
just,
it.
or you know what? Honestly, just ask. I'll give you
Well,
crap.
that's the thing. Invariably, everyone's like, you could just ask me, you could just have some. And I'm like, no, it's more fun this way.
Do it when you already have
It's a
fries.
kink.
I think is the best time for you to do it.
It's a kink. Yeah, it's the chase, not the acquisition. I get
That's
it.
how I start
Yeah.
every intimate relation with my wife. What's that?
Baby.
Robert Monroe is in the chat saying, when my wife and I were dating, I acted depressed a week before April Fool's Day. She kept asking what was wrong, and I'd say, nothing, or I don't want to talk about it.
Zing.
That's the prank. There's no second
Is
part.
that- and then I went to a therapist,
Right.
and now everything
I got better after
Yeah.
a few years.
Or no, just that's the prank. Haha, I got her. She thought I was depressed for a week.
What an idiot.
Nailed
She
it.
can't.
I'm assuming there's another comment to follow this up coming
Maybe.
soon.
I don't, you know what? Shouldn't be.
I hope that's the end of it.
Shouldn't
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
What
made
are
her
some
care
other
about my
questions?
feelings. What an idiot. What's your favorite Halloween costume from when you were a kid?
When I was a kid,
Who wants
I
to go
was the
first?
Invisible Man one year, and I thought
Ooh.
it worked really well. I had like a trench coat and a hat, sunglasses, and all wound up in the wrappings.
Yeah.
I have to go next.
Oh yeah, the Invisible Man.
Mine, no. However, the October of 1991, I went as Darkman.
Awesome.
I was obsessed with the movie. So
Yeah.
bandages, a fedora, a trench coat, a button-down shirt,
That's
and
cool.
every single dumb fucking person in the world thought I was the Invisible Man.
Mm.
And I was
I mean, to be fair, no.
I was incredibly upset with it. When you're 8,
Yeah.
everyone should know what you love and just understand it. Like, or
How could
sorry,
they not
I was
have
maybe
been into?
I was
Dark
10,
Man?
I think. Yeah, no, I was 10.
Even more so.
It made it was my favorite costume. I think I
Yeah.
still have a Polaroid somewhere in my parent's house. It was
Did
the best
anybody
thing.
get it? Was anybody like,
Nope.
Darkman? No, that's awesome.
I just explained it to every single person.
That blows. You should do it again. I've thought of revisiting a cool costume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
people would probably still think you're the Invisible Man, but you
probably
might be able to.
Yeah.
I would know, and JD now too. Would know.
Mine was when T2 came out, Terminator 2 came out. I got there was a whole makeup set that you could get, and it made it look like half of your face was the T1000 underneath.
That's cool.
And so you would put all this putty on, and you would put a prosthetic on with like a glowing red eye.
Ooh.
It was awesome.
That's cool.
I mean, it started to fall apart 20 minutes into my trick or treating.
Sure. Yeah.
Which was a super bummer. But
yeah.
Oh,
sounds really cool.
Robert continues his story.
Hmm.
Finally, on 4/1, April Fool's Day, she was beside herself. That's when I told her I had to tell her something, but I didn't feel comfortable, so I booked us on the Jerry Springer show. She freaked out, yelling, "No, nothing is ever good on the Jerry Springer show." That's the long game.
That is a long game. And you guys are now married.
Wait, did you?
And that's how I proposed.
Did you go to the spring? Did you go to the Springer show?
I
feel like we just keep
go a long
escalating this
Yeah.
over the course of a couple of months.
A couple of months.
Yeah.
So, he continues. What's your go-to costume as an adult?
I've got a go-to costume that I wear. Sometimes I'll even wear it on a year where I like make another costume, but I'm wearing this to a work event or something like that. A hat that I constructed several years ago. Yeah, it's like a bowler cap, and it's got a window into a brain and little curtains on a golden rod tied back, like as in a museum or something like that. And I sometimes wear it with just regular clothes, and originally it was with a suit, like a black suit or a white jacket, or there's variations, but that's my go-to Halloween costume. It fell apart though recently. I'd have to remake it to do it again. That's all right. This is the second one anyway.
No,
I don't have one.
No go-to.
Me neither.
As much as I love just Halloween and spookies and horror movies and stuff, I actually don't like dressing up in costume.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of it. So I support it and love it and go to parties, and everyone's pretty chill that I'm just me and enjoying it. I like being a bystander.
Huh.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
really
who's
like
gonna
dressing
say
up.
anything now? Yeah.
No
Do you
one.
go in like low level costumes sometimes, like a name
The
tag,
last
a
time I
clever
dressed
name
up,
tag or something?
the last time I dressed up, I literally just wore my own clothes and had a
Mhm.
word balloon
Sweet.
that said,
That's cool.
well, oh yeah, that's what it was. My wife went as the pink tax. She just wore a lot of pink things and then attached a lot of things that are upcharged for no fucking reason, just because they're pink or for ladies on herself. And I went as a mansplainer, and I just had a word balloon that said, well, actually, and I just carried it around everywhere. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty much my go-to.
I was at that party, and I was Sam Hain from
Who's that?
Trick or Treat, the movie Trick or Treat.
Swain, Sam.
Samhain?
Samhain.
Yeah, I recently learned it was pronounced Samhain. I didn't know
Yeah,
Like-
Samhain is.
Love
But
it.
the character's name is Sam
that.
Hain.
Right.
so-
You know what? You know what I learned?
My go-to back when I was an adult, before I was this adult, I was a younger adult. When the Crow first came out,
It's good.
I went
TV
like
show.
3 years in a row as the Crow. I
Cool.
was all about that fucking movie.
You know what? I watched it not too long ago. Holds up.
Still holds
Yeah?
up.
Does
Still
it?
holds up. Yep.
I
Yeah.
never saw the show.
Even aesthetically, because they use a lot of matte paintings
Yeah.
and actual sets. Like there's no.
Hmm.
It was before the time of like early awkward CGI. So like
There was
it's still it
There
works.
was a Crow show.
There was a Crow show where a similar thing had happened
Yep.
to another person.
With it's
a
the
very
same character.
similar thing. Oh, I thought it
It's-
was just.
Nope. It's
Oh,
Eric
okay.
Draven. It was Mark Dacascos. So I think it was like one season.
Oh, I never
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
it. Was it good?
I liked it. But
Oh.
I mean, not like.
Yeah.
Not like you should check it out because it's a masterpiece. Like it was just like sci-fi during the middle of the day kind of summer
was-
TV.
It wasn't as good as the Highlander TV show.
Oh, I like that
But
show too. Yeah.
But because it was actually a good show.
Yeah.
But it was better than some of the actual Crow movie sequels, direct to
some of
video
those-
movie sequels.
Those movie sequels
like,
were rough.
So it's like, pick your
Yeah.
poison.
Yeah.
Garbage or
Yeah, let's watch it all.
I realize we could be having this conversation off air, but was it
Well, I
the
think
same
it's a
story
fun
as the
conversation.
movie, just spread out over a season?
Yes.
Gotcha.
You know what I realized about that go-to hat? I think last year, some people are like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," and other people are like, "What's going on?" And I realized that because it's a bowler hat with even a short brim, and I'm taller than some people, they had no idea
They couldn't
that
see it.
they're just like I'm wearing a bowler hat,
Yeah.
and that's like my costume.
That's fine.
Yeah, they couldn't see it.
He has one last question.
What is it?
If you had to get a tattoo right now,
Yeah.
what would it be?
I would get a tattoo that gave me some sort of mystical or amazing powers, like that sort of thing.
The tattoo
Some
man?
runes.
Yeah,
Some
yeah,
runes,
something.
some
Yeah, like runes
A
or
ward
a
of some
power
sorts.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No.
I have no clue. I've never had the compulsion. Come
Well,
back
while
to
you're
me.
thinking,
Yeah.
I would love to have to get a tattoo right now because I keep putting it off because it costs money. But I have wanted to get a tattoo commemorating my wife. When we first hung out, I went to go visit her in California, and the first time we really hung out by ourselves because she was dating my friend, and he was working the night shift, and so she and I hung out by ourselves. And she took me around LA, and it was in October, and I was really into getting a pumpkin milkshake. So we scoured all of Los Angeles for a pumpkin milkshake and finally got one. So I'd really like to get a little illustration of a little pumpkin milkshake, either the milkshake itself with like a little bloop on top, like a dollop of whipped cream, or I was thinking an actual pumpkin, but with a straw in it, Orangina style. So
Interesting choices.
Where would you put it?
On the dick.
Right, yeah, on the tip of my
Yeah.
dick.
Yeah. The tip. I was thinking Jeff, but
So
it's your thing.
Tell like size for the visual for the audience that's watching. Say when size of milkshake.
Just take your dick out.
That's it.
No, it's the theater of the mind.
Just,
I
did not expect that to come from Brian.
I decide. I know what it's going to be. It's going to be realistic sketches of my 2 cats right here on my chest.
Oh,
Just
that's
like
cool. Yeah.
That's nice.
with fucking flames and wings.
Oh, realistic with
Down to my
flames and
shoulders.
wings. That's
realistic
cool.
flames and realistic wings.
Well, I actually I want to I want my cats on fire.
Oh, okay.
Like, are
would
they
it
in
be
control of the
bat
fire?
wings or angel wings?
Angel wings. Angel wings, yes. So think of it as like so the realistic cats in the front, and to accentuate the image, we've got wings and flames, just like 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously.
Robert
I'm into
Monroe
that.
says, I have a horror makeup book from the early 60s that had instructions for a zombie. I wore it to a Halloween party, and people said it was so disturbing that they couldn't look at me. That's nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
That's good.
It's kind of
That's
dope.
well applied.
Yeah.
All right. Tonight marks the 801st episode of the Cult Pop Podcast, which will be our final Monday night live stream. We will be taking off next Monday, which is actually Halloween, and we're going to be returning Wednesday, November 2nd, for a potentially exciting all-new Cult Pop Podcast experience. For now, the details and surprises regarding the rebooted show will be kept under wraps. But if you pay attention to our socials for the next week and change, we'll be posting some teases as well as opportunities to participate. Until then, though, don't read the solicits. Don't watch the trailers. Don't look for spoilers. Just meet us here Wednesday, November 2nd, and you won't be disappointed. Now, Noel wrote that. I'm just reading it. I can't promise you won't be disappointed.
I can. If
good.
you're here, the bar will be slightly higher. You won't be disappointed. It's fine.
Still the still
You're
the same
happy
time.
now.
Oh.
We
Still the same time, says Robert.
It might be a touch earlier.
Yeah, a touch.
We're thinking like 8:30, maybe.
Yeah. It's probably going to be 8:30. But we have not yet fully decided. But I guess we have. I guess we've now decided.
Well, we're aiming for 8:30 to 10, a 90-minute show.
Yeah. All right.
But like with all new things, we're going to feel it out. We're going to figure out what works, and we're going to just kind of like establish it over the course of a couple of weeks. Just hang with us, Robert.
Do it. Hey, no.
Yeah, I'm here.
What's
up?
Listen, I haven't seen you in a little bit. Like I saw you yesterday, but I haven't seen you today.
It's been
and what's been on my mind
24
all
hours.
day. I've been wanting to ask you what you been up to this week, huh?
Huh? Oh,
what you been up to this week, huh?
Huh? I've been up to a couple things, but there's only 2 things that I think are worth really talking about. The first one being I finally finished the first season of Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power. It was really wonderful. I don't know if either of you guys are watching it or have finished it.
I'm not.
The first 2 or 3 episodes was a lot of table setting. But then they really, really dug in around episode 4 and it didn't stop. And there were some genuine surprises and twists at the end. Like characters just kind of revealed themselves, a couple of mysteries, and it ended on a really exciting note. So I'm in. Like I could totally see going back like a couple of years from now, and season 1 was solid, but season 2 through 4 were fucking dope. Not unlike the Lord of the Rings movies, where the first one's just a lot of table setting, a lot of setup, and then just ends really well. It's kind of what this was like.
Those books are stuff. It really doesn't get going until book 3. Of the 3 book series.
Book 2 is hella difficult too, because when they break the Fellowship up, it's written as 2 separate books with alternating chapters.
Yeah.
So like you have to read, like if you're really invested in Sam and Frodo, you still got to read through 2 chapters. Like the book doesn't intercut. The show doesn't have that problem. There's a lot of very appealing subplots, and what's cool about it is that it's still it harks on things that are similar to fans. Like it's based off of the written history of Middle Earth from thousands of years ago. So they make allusions to stuff that you already know from like the beginning of the Lord of the Rings movies, like when they tell a story of Middle Earth. But it still is really enjoyable and entertaining because you don't know, if you know all the details, then the show's not for you. You've read it and memorized it. It's fine. But it still has some really fun surprises.
Is it stuff that has been published before? No, I thought they were making up more of their own.
The mechanics of it has. So it's based off of the appendices and the Silmarillion, right?
Yeah.
So it's in there, it was just like this happened, this and this person did this and this and that. And they're filling in all the gaps with new characters that interact with those characters and stuff.
Cool.
So like,
I like the Silmarillion. A lot of people do not, but I thought it was cool. Yeah,
it's history.
It's like a history textbook.
History.
Yeah, Middle Earth. Yeah.
Right on.
But
that is
you might like the show.
Rings of Power on Prime Video. Go watch it, says Noel.
Check
it out.
Says Noel. The other thing that I started playing was Marvel Snap. Have you guys seen this or tried it yet?
Yeah, I don't know about it.
It's a mobile game. It's on iOS and Android. The only reason why I know about it is because there was a really funny commercial on TV about it. I am not a gamer, and I wouldn't consider mobile games really gaming. It's just things that you do passively between moments.
Sure.
But it's this really easy, really fun card battle game where you just build a deck and constantly just play against other players. And it's fun as hell. It's very easy and really fun. Yeah.
I know friend of the show, Brandon, is playing it.
Yeah. I'll gush with him about it next Sunday. It's a really fun, low impact game. A lot of times I find myself with like not enough time to do anything intense, but enough time to get bored. Right. So something like this, that's just in and out. And it's really nice.
For me, that's about 3 seconds.
Yeah. Well, you could do it while watching the kid because it's low impact. Anyway, that's all I've been up to.
Right on. Well,
Sweet.
Brian.
Hey, how's it going?
What have you been up to this week, huh?
I watched the centenary special and regeneration episode of the Jodie Whittaker Doctor Who. It's the centenary of the BBC, not the show. The 60th.
I'm sorry. What is the word you're saying?
The 100th anniversary. The centenary, or in Britain, centenary. I've heard or read. But yeah, that's what it is. I had never heard it, I don't think, before the BBC started talking about their centenary special. Anyway, this was, I think, the best episode of this Doctor so far. And that's it. So this is the best. This is her best.
Just in time.
Yeah. Just in time. She had some cool moments. I think the show writing failed her. I think she was great as the Doctor, and the show was not great, unfortunately. But she was really good in this, and the story was very cool. I stayed off of the internet and social media all day today, hoping to avoid confirmation of one thing that I thought was going to happen. Then there was a bunch of other stuff that I did not think that was going to happen was pretty cool too. And then some things that were not big spoiler moments. They were just awesome Doctor Who moments.
Great.
The guy playing the Master, I thought was better than he'd been in any other appearance too. And,
he's only appeared like 3 times, right?
Yeah, not much. There's like I think he was in one larger story, but you didn't see him very much. But
it was her season 12. Like he was the first 2 episodes of season 12, and then he came back.
Yeah.
Towards the end.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And
I'm not finished.
Yeah, I didn't think he was that great until this episode either, and it was cool. And I also, the thing that I thought was going to happen in one way or another happened in a way, and I thought it was very cool. And I'm not going to be giving away anything here, but I'm very excited to see what's up. The showrunner who did the Return back in like 2005 is back, so I'm hoping he's got a lot of new cool ideas.
I adore Doctor Who. We made our at the front door of our house TARDIS blue. But to your point, like we've kind of fallen off, and it has nothing to do with Jodie Whittaker. I thought she was
awesome,
absolutely phenomenal. But the show started feeling non-vital and pretty mid. It just felt mid. Like there was random episodes that were really, really good, but they abandoned full arcs for that first season, and it was just like, okay, it didn't really feel very vital to catch every single episode right away, and then just kind of fell off. And it doesn't feel like it ever really recovered.
No, and they didn't really focus on her that much.
No.
You know, there was
it's like they were afraid to. Like
Yeah.
they didn't. They kept tacking on more companions. They kept tacking on more guests of the week. It's like they were afraid to just focus on her.
Yeah, let's have her
like
carry
the source of gravitas.
The show, like the major person in the room. My stepdad pointed out how unfortunate, but that she embodied a number of negative female stereotypes that women would want to move away from, you know, in general, in positive representation. You know, like she's kind of off-putting her own importance and power, you know, and the whole flat team structure thing with her companions. It just in general, and it's like, this is the wrong time to do that, you know.
I didn't ever catch up on those vibes, but I did think that a lot of times when she made mention of, there was a lot of times when they had side characters come in and they would not address her, they would address Graham or something like that, and they would make jokes about it. Sure. After the third or fourth time, it was like, I get it. Okay. Like she never really stepped in front of the group.
Right.
And I like, she's awesome, but I think,
like I mentioned, that the whole flat team structure, you know, she kept saying, no, we're all equals. And it's like, no, you're the doctor.
No, you're not.
You're the doctor. You're the one who knows what's going on and will fix this problem. But her last bit was cool in parts, the Flux, like six episode series. And then this was great. And who knows what will be in the future. They often try to get doctors back for
I won't spoil it, but I did see the regeneration. And they are returning. They're not returning until next November.
I know, right?
For 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So in the interim year, I'm gonna try and finish her run because we fell off. But my wife has never watched Tenet's run.
Oh.
And it seems to be a really good time to go ahead and kind of reintroduce her to that. Yeah.
I mean, she's seen like
she started with Smith. She started with Smith, most of Capaldi, and I showed her some Tenet episodes as background. So like the River Song episodes. Okay, but no, she's never watched Tenet all the way through.
Oh my! All right,
it's good stuff.
It's very good. Yeah, anyway, we're just rewatching it. What have you been up to this week?
We've bored JD enough. JD, what have you been up to this week?
Yeah. Oh well, speaking of Dr. Whomst, Matt Smith. I have been watching Game of Thrones House of the Dragon, which is streaming on HBO Max. I loved Game of Thrones. We used to get together with friends, groups of friends, specifically just for Game of Thrones night. I did not have as big a reaction to the finale as a lot of people did, in terms of hatred and disgust and anger. I was just like, oh, that was pretty good. That was fine. And then I went on with my life. But I also was not really looking forward to more. I was like, okay, I guess we've had this ride and it's fun. So when House of the Dragon came out, I was like, also, I don't really care about the Targaryens. The Targaryens are like my least favorite. I don't really care about those guys. So the fact that it was a Targaryen show, I was like, all right. We put it on, and I was immediately back into it. I was immediately like, oh, okay. The music started playing, the dun, 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 dun. And I was like, oh, let's go. So I've only watched 2 episodes, maybe 3. No, 2. Maybe 3.
3.
And I watched 3. Even though recently the finale just happened, right?
Oh.
Last night. I'm 2 behind.
So my wife and I have really been enjoying the House of the Dragon.
Nice.
It's a lot of fun, and Matt Smith is awesome in it.
Brian, have you watched it at all?
I have not. I'm not opposed to it. I'm a little more interested in Lord of the Rings, but I felt like the original Game of Thrones the whole time. I'm like, when are they gonna get to the magic and stuff, right? And they never really go into that.
Yeah,
they never really do.
That's not a feature of the show. No. But it's not really a feature of the show. It's just a thing that some can do.
World,
I think only only the one Red Priestess ever really practiced magic during the course of the show.
Any kind of magic stuff, like the girl in the book who can turn into a bear, or the White Walkers, or when's that gonna really explode? And I didn't feel like it did. And then the last season, I never was into it as many people, so I wasn't as upset either, JD, but I was like, oh, what the fuck was that? What is going on here with this? And I, like many people, which is weird, so quickly after it was like, yeah, that was over. I never need to see that again.
Yeah, JD, we watched the finale together. I think like it didn't bother me at all. Like plot wise, everything lined up how it was supposed to, and I was okay with it. I think at that point though, it had been 8 seasons. The first 4 or 5, which were entertaining but plotting, I was ready for it to be over. Like I was ready for an end. So I didn't care that they were like speeding things through things, that they were getting to lands faster, that they were doing jumps in time. I was like, yeah, let's roll. That's cool. I want to get I actually want to know how this ends. Let's go.
Well, and the episode before too. Like there was the last episode and the one before where the looming threat was taken care of.
Yeah.
Relative ease. and then had nothing to do with the finale at all. Like so many different possibilities of what might be happening, and like none of the more interesting ones seem to take place.
I was pretty okay with that because it was a cool shock, and then also there were so many plot threads.
Yeah.
They needed to start, they couldn't wait for 1 hour to like put them all in one. But before we move off House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
This is one of those things where I enjoy it when it's on. I can tell that it's incredibly impressive. All the actors are really, really good. Like it's very tense. Visually, it's fantastic. But I don't always enjoy it. Like the experience of it, because I hate all these people. I think they're doing terrible things. And I don't feel like I'm rooting for anyone. So it's something that we do and I watch, but when it's not in front of me, I don't feel anything for it. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
There were a couple of, like 1 or 2 times in Game of Thrones where I was like, am I done with this show because of what is happening in the show? Yeah.
I totally invested now. 8 episodes in, I'm going to finish it. I'm very interested in how it turns out. They keep doing time jumps, and it's just, I haven't decided if I really like that or don't.
I do like that it feels a little different with that aspect than the original show.
Right.
When they start changing actors, it was difficult for me because you get invested in faces and choices, and then 2 episodes later they are different faces and different choices for the same character, and doesn't always, or it's worked so far, but it's kind of off-putting. Like and like it's Game of Thrones, so they don't spoon feed you anything. It's just like pause. That's the same person that was a kid an episode ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Like it is an incredibly impressive show, and I'm very excited about the finale, and we'll see what happens. But if there's a 2-year gap in between, I don't know if I'll continue.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah.
Hey, I have an interesting thing that has never happened before on What You've Been Up To This Week, huh? JD, I have watched Bad Sisters now.
Hey!
Yes. The show that you spoke of earlier and loved, and I thought it was really great too.
Wonderful.
Tamara and I were real invested. I think we finished the whole thing in a couple of days, 3 days.
Yeah.
We were really into it.
We were watching it as a release, so we had a week in between each one.
Yeah.
Which was rough sometimes.
It was nice to be able to be like, let's do it. And then last night we did 3 in a row and stayed up really late. Because, you get to the second to last one and you're like, well, how does it turn out,
Yeah.
It was cool. I called the whatever deal. Yeah. And Tamara called a little bit of the attendance stuff, but I'll tell you what, none of that. I really wanted to know who it was, but the whole way it played out. Now, I'll tell you what, one character at one point accidentally does something that made the show less fun after that. It was a big thing that the character accidentally did, that they were very upset by. And after that, I was like, oh
yes.
man,
Oh yeah.
everything up to here was like frolicking in the murder.
And then shit got real. Shit got real.
Yeah, I was like, oh, well,
frolicking in the murder.
Yeah.
I'm
it turned out
actively
well.
not paying
It was really
attention.
Good.
Yeah.
We're just talking about frolicking through a field of murder.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That thing happened, and I was like,
oh, all right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I had seen, the alerts come up on my phone that in the chat. I thought it said Len had watched.
He did too.
But it was
He
you.
did also say that.
No, he chimed in also.
Yeah.
I'm the only one still that hasn't watched it yet.
Oh man. And I love Sharon Horgan. She's just so great. She's
is
the
great.
Big sister. Yeah.
I happened to hear her on a podcast like as we were watching the show. I was like, cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Send me that podcast if you think of it.
I will.
All right, and then my other thing was, speaking of sexy
Mm.
times, like House of the Dragon, which is not really sexy. There's a lot of like underage stuff.
It's incest. It's all
really
incest.
Interview with a Vampire has a new television show on AMC Plus, and it is a retelling of the film or the book, I suppose, but it takes place in modern day. And we're still in the middle of a pandemic. And actually, I'm not entirely sure what the relationship is. If someone could tell me this, I'm not sure what the relationship of this TV show is to the movie. It's Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt and Antonio Banderas. Because at the end, so the first movie, the only movie is
the first one.
Well,
there were
Christian Slater is a journalist, and one of the vampires is giving his story to the journalist who's writing a story about it, and they're recording it on tapes and everything. But in this show, that conversation between him and the journalist took place back in the 70s, and now they are revisiting the story. So I can't tell if it's actually supposed to be a sequel, a slightly rejiggered sequel to the movie, and now we're getting the real story. Because there was, the journalist even says, I was high back then. There was holes in your story that I never followed up on, et cetera, et cetera. And so, I've only watched the first episode because it was free on Shudder, I think it was, or something. And it was very, very good. It was very gay. Like in the books and the first movie, Lestat and Louis it's very just sort of implied. They just kind of skirt around. But this is like straight on having at it, which is kind of cool. They don't really shy away from it. It's gay as hell. So that's kind of cool.
My understanding is, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying Christopher Goodnight says, loving Interview with a Vampire.
My understanding is that it's not unlike Watchmen, how it's not a sequel or remake or anything really specific. It's just kind of like a reinterpretation, continuation of the book.
Great.
Awesome. So people that have watched the movie, they'll still kind of understand the context. People that have only read the book will still understand the context. And it's kind of like a continuation or just a what if only from that starting point.
Can I tell you guys?
In this, Louis is black. Louis is a black pimp, basically, back in New Orleans when he first becomes a vampire. So that's a very different.
Louis is the Brad Pitt character. Yeah, he's a vampire.
Oh, all right.
Louis not.
Can I tell you guys? My mind was blown to really realize that it is Interview with the Vampire. I learned recently, and I was like, no. I mean, up until very recently, I was like, I would have sworn it was Interview with a Vampire. That's what everybody says, But then I started seeing it pop up, I guess because of the new show, and I'm like, wait a second. And I looked it up, and that's what it is.
I think everyone says Interview with
a Vampire. It's not like there's just one vampire.
Christopher Goodnight says, I have a friend who isn't watching it because it's gay.
Why?
I don't understand shit like that, man. Like,
hey,
if romance, who cares?
If they don't want to watch it, it's not like they're actively discouraging or against it. But I don't understand
Well, I don't
it
know.
either. But
But
well, no, I mean, they're not necessarily, you know.
yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, if
Hmm.
not gonna go down that rabbit hole. It's fine.
Oh.
It's fine.
Okay.
Well, I mean, it's like okay. I will.
Okay.
It's so as a straight male, I
Yeah.
am titillated by opposite sex,
Mhm.
the majority opposite sex kind of intercourse, right?
Sure.
So
This all tracks. Go on.
yeah, so
I've
like
been there.
so if the goal of what I'm watching is just to titillate, it will be
Mhm.
straight porn or
Sure.
just straight content.
Sure.
But if the goal is to just tell a story that involves heterosexual and or just, you know, gay relationships or LGBTQ plus relationships,
Yeah.
my intention is not to be titillated, so there's nothing that I should object to in
No.
that content. If you are watching it to be titillated and it's something else, then yeah, I don't want to watch it because it's gay. Because all I'm watching it for is to get off.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
somebody that's just like, I don't want to watch it because it's gay. It's what's your intention?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do that either or abstain from it for that reason either. But I just mean, like, I can't say someone is wrong for not wanting to watch something.
In defense, there's some content that I feel is not for me.
Sure.
It's not made for me.
Yeah.
It's got references that aren't like intended for me to understand.
Yeah,
There's books like that, and there's music like that, and there's movies like that. So if somebody were like, "Hey, did you see this?" and I was like, "Oh, I didn't think it was for me," and then they give me a heads up or yeah, probably not. Okay, I didn't watch it because it was XYZ.
Right.
But just as a level, it just seems really silly.
Yeah.
I remember someone on my wife's side was talking about queer storytelling, and she wound up saying something like, "Oh, she questioned whether or not I would. Oh, do you really want to watch like a gay romance?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not? It's a why wouldn't I? What? I was confused by the question. I was like, am I misreading this? Do I really want to watch it? It's got a gay romance, and it's like, oh, I don't. I'm a human being. I'm able to feel feelings. I'm able to emphasize, not emphasize.
You can emphasize it.
Empathize with someone who's having feelings about someone, and just because it's another guy doesn't mean I can't translate that in my head to a woman. Like I can understand and relate to romantic feelings towards another human being, so it doesn't really bother me either
and
way.
be happy for it. Like,
I'm
glad they got together. Yeah.
All like if it's emotionally relatable, then all the details don't really matter. However, there are some things that I've read and seen where I do not understand the references and or I feel like, is this a thing? It's on your shelf right now, Getting It Together. It's a very gay book, and it's just about gay relationships and just a group of queer friends. Yeah. They make a lot of references and a lot of jokes with a baseline that I just doesn't exist in my world. So I had to like look things up, and then some things it's like I was reading it and I just knew like, oh, this hits somebody else a lot stronger than it hits me.
Same thing with Kieran Gillen. A lot of Kieran Gillen's books, right?
Yeah, like it's almost like, oh, this isn't really for me. I can tell that it's good, but they're making specific references to gay dating that I have never heard before and or experienced. So like that joke that's related to it, that's not a joke for me. Okay, cool. Yeah. Still a good book, but stuff like that I could totally see being like, ugh. But I remember we're all the same age. I remember growing up in intolerant places, and you had to go out of your way and or never got to see movies like Boys in the Hood or really anything from John Singleton or the Hughes brothers, because they were considered black movies. Yeah. Like, oh, you're going to see a black movie?
Not to be confused with Death Becomes Her, which was a black comedy.
Yeah. But you know, living in like middle Florida, you know. there was no place to, or you'd have to like travel outside of, and like they just assumed you weren't for that audience, even though they were great movies and for everyone. Like, so I get it. It's annoying, but I get it.
All right, that is what we've been up to this week. Huh? If you like the show and you're here, maybe you like the show. You should like and subscribe. You can join us on Facebook if you look for CultPop Podcast. You can become a patron to help us keep going, keep the lights on, keep this bisexual lighting on. If you go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo, or you can come down to my shop, Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 4327 Main Street. Or, as well as, so I made a shirt. I've been in Halloween mode, and I realized I never drew a Michael Myers t-shirt.
Never?
So I actually went ahead and designed this Michael Myers t-shirt. So it's like half Michael Myers. You got a little bit of a skull in there. You've got the crossbones, which are actually butcher knives. So this is my... If you like Halloween, if you like Michael Myers, even if you hated Halloween Ends,
You're wrong.
Hit me up. They're $20. I'll mail it to you.
What if you're a big fan of painted Captain Kirk masks? Then
even better.
Did you get one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's the buzz. That's buzz around town. Come get one. Let's move on to our main review of the evening. It is called Redneck Volume 1, Deep in the Heart. It's an Image Comics publication. It's written by Donny Cates, which is one of my favorite writers, and I'm surprised I've never read this one. With art by Alessandro Esterin. The solicitation is as follows. The Bowmans are vampires who have quietly run the local barbecue joint in their small town for years, living off cow's blood. Their peaceful coexistence ends as generations of hate, fear, and bad blood bubble to the surface, making it impossible to separate man from monster. So, Noel's got it up on the screen.
Oh, there it is.
I will also have it up on the screen in just a second.
When?
Boop, bop, beep, blarp, share.
Sklurts.
Work. There it is. Redneck. Deep in the Heart. So my very first thoughts about this book are, this is fun. I like it. It shows us an emotional side to vampires that I don't think I've seen very often.
No.
These vampires feel a little different than a lot of the ones that I've seen. And it does remind me very much of another Southern story called Southern Bastards by Jason Aaron and Jason LOTR. Even I think in the Southern Bastards, there's also a barbecue joint that's run by the protagonists or antagonists of the story, and it takes place in Texas, etc., etc. So that's just another in a long line of Donny Cates and Jason Aaron connections. So I think this is great. I actually liked Volume 1 so much that I started reading Volume 2 immediately. So what did you think? Noel, you're the one who told us to read this. You forced our hand. Tell us why.
Most of the reasons that you already mentioned. There was something. So this is also a Donny Cates book that just kind of totally fell by the wayside for me. I didn't start reading it until it was 20 or like 30 issues in. But I wanted to go back after reading God Country, like look up his other Image stuff.
Yeah, that was great.
So I picked this first trade up. I think I picked up the first two trades. And
at Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex?
At Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, located at 42. And they just sat on my shelf forever until I went on vacation. And I brought them with me on vacation, and I ate through both volumes in like a 1.5 sittings on a beach. It's immediately. We'll talk about the art in a second, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the characterizations, the interplay between the characters, the stage that they set with this everyday life of just vampires. And they have the same, like when other vampire fiction there's kind of like a exalted kind of aesthetic to it, where like I've lived so long that I have so many things and I am of a certain era. And this is the same thing, but it's a completely different culture that has been around for so long. Like this is, you know, like we're used to European vampires. These are fucking Texans. These are Mexicans and Texans. And they have their own culture that has gone on for however many hundreds of years. And they've got this like Hatfield and McCoy kind of thing going on with a bloodline of pastors. And it took all the tropes
Explain
that I
the
was
Hatfield
used to.
McCoy connection.
It's a famous family that were enemies for generations in the Middle America, Midwest.
Is that a generational thing? I didn't realize.
It was generational. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
The Montagues and the Capulets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that too.
They
put their differences aside at the end of it, and that is why Romeo and Juliet is called a comedy. Is one of his comedies. In that time, it was a story that starts bad and ends well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
I know it was. I thought it was a laugh riot.
No. I mean that's the definition of the older definition of comedy.
I know. I'm kidding.
Oh, I gotcha. That's terrible, JD. That you would find this Suicide Pact funny, but
it's hilarious.
So Redneck.
Yeah.
I just fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with Bartlett. I fell in love with these characters you have right here. The purveyors of the barbecue place that they have. How this world of vampires treats familiars, how this world of vampires treats their revenue, how they treat just how they exist in the community was really, really cool. And, you know, not much of a spoiler, but Donny Cates kind of gets you used to their regular world and then rips it away at the end of this volume.
Sure does. He sure does.
Which is just such a wonderful, fun story trope because it doesn't feel a lot of times I'll read stories where they do that and it feels desperate just to shock you. And here it didn't feel desperate. It felt like this is just the beginning. And he does keep paying that off in later volumes where this book never lets you really rest on a status quo.
I noticed that in the second volume too. I was like, oh shit, another change. That's big. Oh God.
And it's just continuously effective. And I love it despite its flaws. It's a very strong book. I like it a lot.
Brian, what say you about Redneck Volume?
I say I liked it as well. Yeah, I got into it pretty rapidly. And it was one of those books that kind of starts off and before you know it, all kind of stuff has happened. You know,
yes,
like you're just like, oh, here we are in the normal world, and now this big thing is happening, and what have you, and you're getting introduced to a lot of stuff. I thought they pretty masterfully worked in the backstory of the main character. Like they introduce him in a relatable, emotional way, and then give you the whys and hows of how he's with the vampires and who he was before. And it's really well done. I agree about the art. The art is fine for this story. It's not taking me so far out of it, but I'm not super into it either. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it services the story. It doesn't really accentuate it. The art's not the feature. It's just functional.
If it were like a superhero story, I would probably dislike the art. But given the tone of this tale, it's fine. You know, it works okay. I did have a couple of thoughts that I thought were interesting. The new vampires are stronger is an interesting wrinkle.
Yeah,
like, that's an unusual thing that I don't know if it pays off later or if it was just for this. But like you said, JD, that's a different take on vampires. They're not into going around killing people. It also doesn't seem like that's that strange of a thing in this vampire. You know, a lot of times vampires in stories have renounced killing or whatever, but they're like the only one, or then they battle all of the other vampires. So we'll see. You know, the next volume could have that completely wrong. I don't know.
Well, I don't think it's a spoiler. This is kind of a scenario. This is kind of a universe where they are just another other.
Right.
not predators
Mhm.
Yeah.
to their community. They're just, they live in the sticks and they keep to their own and they've got rules and they're just the other.
And they seem
But
like
you F's with them, they F's with
Right,
you
yeah,
back.
right.
Real
But
bad.
they also seem a little worried about like, hey, if we start killing a bunch of people, the
Oh, yeah.
humans are very capable of taking
They've-
us out in the modern times.
They've been through this. And it's like it's very subtle in this first volume, and it gets a little bit more so. But these characters, they have lived multiple lives, and they've been different people at different times.
Yeah.
So who's the patriarch's name? I forget. The older guy with
grandfather or the
No.
JT?
JV.
JT.
JV.
So like the
JV.
relationship JV, the relationship between JV and Bartlett is what it is now. Used to be something else. Maybe something else in the future, because they've lived different lives at different times. So, Bartlett is introduced as kind of a meek, want no trouble character. That's not who he is to his core, and the story takes its time to kind of reveal that, which is just super wonderful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You were talking about, early before we started rolling, you had said that it's an interesting main character, Bartlett. You were surprised that he was the main character, and so was I, because he's sort of a cowardly fella. Yeah. So I guess he wasn't always this way.
Like a don't want no trouble, like Noel said. It really.
Well, I mean, and that is like the real him. It's just, he got to that place of I don't want no trouble.
Them being able to have children is a different thing about vampires too.
Pretty cool, right?
It took me a little while to understand and figure out what was happening, just because I'm not used to that being something that vampires do. And they even make reference, like, it's not so easy, but it happens. But yeah, that was interesting.
There's a little girl who's one of the main characters. She's part of the family, and through most of the book, I had to keep reminding myself, "Oh, right, she is
right. She's like 60. I think she said. Yeah.
What's that?
I think she said she's 60.
60.
Right.
I kept thinking that I was like, who in this family would turn a little girl at like 12 years old? Like, oh, right, no, she's actually just like their child. She's actually an actual child.
Right.
Vampire. Yeah.
And they mention Slap and the other ones. They're like, they're just teenagers. And they're like, they're 100-some years old. And they're like, that's nothing, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually, I think Slap, the older guys are 60, aren't they?
I thought she was 60, and they're like 100-something, but
maybe
they don't go
either way
into it. Yeah. They're older than they appear to human standards.
Yeah.
I thought so. They make a point to say that humans wear black at funerals, but vampires wear red. And then the funeral that they have, they're not all wearing red. And I thought that was an unusual choice, right? Like they kind of hammer it, and then some of them are wearing red, but they're not all. And it doesn't seem to be a story point.
Well, if I may, Brian,
you may.
I don't think that was literal. I think what that is saying is that if one of ours dies, they tell this story a couple of times too. They will F everyone up. They will raise a town. If one of their guys dies, they will raise an entire town because they might not get the guy who really killed him. So we got to kill everybody in this town.
They do say that. So you don't want to mess around with something like that.
So that's how I took We Wear Red, is that they will bathe in the blood of everyone in town if you F with them.
Oh, I thought it was like a vampire customs sort of, like We Wear Red.
No, just brutality. 0 to 60, essentially.
You can do that too.
How did you guys feel about the twist at the end of this?
What was the twist about the
reveal of the killer?
It didn't seem like. I mean, I thought it was fine. I thought it was cool. I wasn't like beside myself with shock.
Yeah,
given. Yeah. But I was very surprised that was that. It's like, boy, it took him out. And in a pretty badass way, he leaps into the sun.
I
did you guys see that
really
mosquito? That was interesting.
The mosquito, it's a tiny little bit, but I noted it. I was like, that was fun. I like that.
Yeah.
Basically, it's just a close-up of a mosquito landing on someone's arm, and then it drinks for a second. It flies off. It hits the sun and explodes because it drank a vampire's blood.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's right.
It's like 3 panels.
What's the name of the the new vampire or the preacher, the
Oh,
Landry.
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 I think
Yeah.
that was quite an
That's-
unexpected turn.
That's a cool
That was cool.
Yeah.
conflict that gets
Yes.
carried over. Like
Yeah.
that is such a mortal enemy now having this kind of power. So do you protect and teach, or do you it's just this book is cool. I'm shocked that it's so under the radar still. Like it's still
Same.
going.
Especially it's Donny Cates.
Yeah.
Why is no one talking about this book?
I feel like it probably does well, but
we're talking about it. Yeah.
I think it's on hiatus too. So like there's 5 trades out, or maybe 6, 5 trades out. And it was I think they're in the middle of the last arc, but this is not anyone's priority.
Yeah.
Like this comic, everyone that's working on it, it's their side gig. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Another book that this kind of reminds me of is it's a good sister book to this, is called Moonshine, which is this is redneck, and the pun being, of course, rednecks in the South, but also rednecks from being bit. But also Moonshine is prohibition werewolves in the 1920s. So I'm a sucker for those kind of punny names,
we hadn't brought it up before, but I do really like that. It's very clever. The title of the book.
That was the first thing I noticed. Before I even knew who Donny Cates was, I saw this book come out and I was like, nice. I like it.
The Father Landry thing that you mentioned, I think was fascinating. I think that's really. I liked the book before, and then when they did that, I was like, oh, this is provocatively interesting. This sort of emotional interplay between the two of them, and why Bartlett does it, because he had been abandoned, and he's like, no, we can't do that. It's out of kindness. And then Landry accepts it, accepts the outstretched hand. I don't know if that continues non-contentiously, but it was cool. Yeah.
It's interesting to follow that through in volume 2.
Oh, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the major things. The twist of who the killer was fine. That scene is the one that made me love the book. The scene with Bartlett and Landry was the one that I was like, oh, we're doing something a little different here, and I really enjoy this. Especially when you're dealing with generational trauma and 2 different families who've been at war for a reason, right? That we find out in volume 2. Did we find out in volume 1?
We found out in volume 1, at least what started it off. Maybe not what kept it going, but it's got an emotional core to the book that I find surprising.
It's a good comic. It's a very good comic, and I like Moonshine is like same kind of book-ish.
But that's drawn by Eduardo Riso, which means its artwork is.
I didn't have the same kind of emotional connection to Moonshine than this, but more so Donny Cates' Baby Teeth is actually a really good companion book to this. Which is another one of those cute title names. It's essentially just a single mother who finds out her unborn is the Antichrist, and a lot of people want to kill it, but she's like, no, but it's my baby. So she's on the run with the Antichrist, and it's a really fun book too. Surprising.
Oh, cool.
Baby Teeth.
Yeah, I read the first issue of this for the podcast when it first hit, like a decade ago or whatever. And I remember, the only thing I really remember from it is that the woman is going through labor, and she's on her way to the hospital, and she's going through labor, and each one of the contractions creates a earthquake. Because it's the Antichrist.
It's a fun book.
Yeah. You know what? On that note, that little demon show that I've mentioned in What You've Been Up To this week has been really cool. Similarly, about an Antichrist, and has been surprisingly like moving a story forward. It's not, because you could easily just do like Antichrist in suburbia and just do different things every week but return to the same setting. And it has not been doing that. And I think it's holding up even more now than when I reviewed it.
This is the Aubrey Plaza cartoon?
Yeah, Danny DeVito and Lucy DeVito plays, his daughter plays his daughter, the Antichrist on the show. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Aubrey Plaza is her mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
Awesome. Nice.
Mhm.
I watched an episode or two because Ray has it on in the shop.
Yeah.
We cycle through. What's that show called? What is it?
Little Demon.
Little Demon. The Over the Garden Wall
Oh, I love that.
is a good one.
It's so good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen
anyway.
it in, I think, since it came out, but I loved it.
It always winds up on our TV in October.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else before we hit the dusty trail?
No. Good
No.
book. Everyone should pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, pick it up.
So yeah, if you're interested, Donny Cates, Lissandro Estherin, and this is called Redneck Volume 1, Deep in the Heart. I am smack in the middle of Volume 2. I just read Volume 1 today, and I just kept reading until the podcast. So yeah, check it out. All right, guys. We told you everything you need to know, right? We're not here next week.
Now.
We'll see you November 2nd.
November 2nd, which is a Wednesday.
Wednesday, November 2nd. Pay attention.
New show.
We'll put details on our social medias. If you don't follow, like, comment, subscribe, jump on, and we'll give you as many details as we want to. Just be here.
So 8:30, right?
We'll say 8:30. Yeah.
We'll say 8:30. Yeah.
And if it changes the next week, we'll let you guys know. But it's looking like 8:30, folks.
Cool. All right, guys.
Thanks for
hanging out with us. We love you, and we will talk at you.